the reason the charity was so close to my heart is because my best friend was stage 4 metastatic breast cancer at
Mm.
the time. And she got to see that. She got to see the money that was collected, and, saw what my head looked afterwards. And then she actually died the following week.
Oh
Um,
wow, I'm very
so,
sorry.
yeah. But knowing that, we've been able to do some good in the world, even though like Crown Jewel is like, there's all the Saudi controversy and whatnot, but
Yeah.
through that we were able to do some good in the world, and the charities for Stand for Syria and stuff like that.
What's going on, guys? It's your boy, Tom Talks Rubbish, and stand back for another interview. This time, I'm joined by the one and only Jenna, a moderator for Wrestle Talk. So, welcome to the show.
Hello.
So, if we take this back, where do you first discover wrestling as an overall fan?
So I first started as a fan when I was a kid. My dad got me into wrestling.
Mm.
And when I say kid, I mean like the late 90s. Actually went to the 1998 King of the Ring pay-per-view,
Mm.
the one with Undertaker and Mankind on the cell. So
Mm.
that was kind of a big, big wrestling moment that I have in my life. But I kind of fell out of it after that. My mom was not a fan of wrestling, and
Mm.
the Attitude Era was going into full swing. So she kind of swayed me away from it. And then, like most people who are fans right now, I came back in 2016, thanks to some internet videos posted by certain channels, giving lists and whatnot. And I've been back ever since.
That's really cool. Going back to Mankind, Undertaker for a second, I've spoken to people that's their favorite match of all time, but they weren't there in person. So, do you remember the reaction of what was your reaction being there in person for Mankind Undertaker?
Well, I think I was still in the age of, kayfabe. You believed what you saw, everything was real. And we weren't close, but we were, in a place where we could still see.
Mm.
And we were on the side that he actually came off the cage into the tables. And it's like you would see him fall and then nothing. You couldn't see where he landed, what he landed on, what was going on. But the crowd was loud. They were all excited for everything being extreme. But it was quite interesting. Definitely something that we hadn't seen before.
Mm. So you talk about as well there, your mum being like, "No, you shouldn't watch this." Would you know what it was specifically that made her go, "No, not anymore"?
I do remember there was this one segment. I can't remember what the purpose of it was, but Sable came out and
Um,
she took off t-shirt and had like the handprints on her assets. So, mom didn't like a lot of that showy stuff and sexual
it wasn't the
innuendo
Mae
and
Young segment by any chance, was it?
no, no.
So you talk about there also sort of having this big gap in wrestling before you came back in 2016. Because be honest, Jenna, we've all done it. Did you sneak any wrestling after the ban, shall we say?
I don't think I watched any wrestling. Like I would keep up with the news here and there, so and so passed, or hey, this, wrestler from the past is now doing this thing, or, The Rock or John Cena, ones that you can't escape from in mainstream news. But no, I was completely gone from watching the product itself until 2016.
So you talk about there the channels that brought you back in with lists and stuff. What were the channels? I know an obvious one because we're going to talk about your work with them in a minute. But what were the
Yeah.
channels?
I started with What Culture before, everybody left and the formats changed and whatnot. And the list videos were what got me started. And then I started watching their live reactions to pay-per-views because, we didn't have the WWE network at the time and we didn't want to pay for a pay-per-view because we weren't really fully back into watching the product yet.
Mm.
But yeah, it was mostly What Culture and then a little bit of Wrestle Talk snuck in there.
What brought you back in 2016 then? And you say we went fully back into watching the product. Were you watching it with other people at this time?
Um, what brought me back was I think I was unemployed at the time. And so, I was a stay-at-home mom and just, you know, needing to find something to watch. And there's nothing on TV. So just searching YouTube and a list came up one day. I have no idea which one it was. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. Let's watch another. Let's watch another. Um, so we went from no wrestling fans in the house to
Mm.
four, because my husband is a fan as well. And then I have two teenage sons who also love wrestling. So we're all in it now.
So you talk about your sons loving wrestling there. Did you get them into it? What happened? Did you get them into it? Were they already fans and that ignited your fandom? How did that connect?
I think we got them into it because, we started with the list and then we start watching Raw or SmackDown because that was on cable, easy to watch. Um, and they would watch with us as long as it, was appropriate. And they just really enjoyed it. They enjoyed, the personalities and they enjoyed the wrestling itself. And they've gone to, I think, three live shows now. And they absolutely love it. They watch YouTube lists now
Mm.
and they read, the Wrestle Talk magazine and um, they're 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 more in at their age than I was at their age. So it's pretty
You
cool to watch.
you also talk about, first of all, you talk about it being pretty cool to watch them discovering a fandom, but you also talk about it being appropriate at times. So have you had a moment where you've had to, for lack of a word, better word, be your mother and be like, no, this isn't, you shouldn't watch this sort of thing?
Yeah, we did have to ban watching it for a while in the house when the kids were awake after the Lana and Bobby Lashley stuff was going on.
Oh.
Because that was a bit intense for young eyes. So we would, we'd let them watch some things, but if we, by this time I was working with Wrestle Talk, so if we knew that a certain segment was planned for the show, or if something was going to happen, we'd be like, okay, you guys can't watch tonight. We'll, watch it on replay, on demand, or something like
Mm.
that. But you're not watching this live. I'm not ready to have those conversations with you yet.
Did you hear, for lack of a better word, when you was having this conversation with your sons, did you hear your mum's voice almost of like, oh, I've become my mum?
I really could, yeah. I understood why she didn't like it, but she was against, everything. The Not just the Attitude Era stuff, but oh, it's too violent, and you if you watch it, then you're going to do those moves and you're going to kill somebody, and didn't go that far, but yeah, the first time that I turned the show off and said, okay, we're not watching, I was like, and there's my mother.
Yeah. So you also talk about your husband being a fan. So do you have any sort of overlapping fandom of like, oh, I watched this, or he watched? Do you know what I mean?
hmm Um, the times that we watched were different, but he really enjoyed early '90s stuff,
Mm.
and he had a job at a restaurant once in a major city, and they were in town, and he got to serve some of the wrestlers.
Oh
He
wow.
Yeah, so he was able to say, hey, this person is like they are on TV, or this person is nothing like their on-screen character. So that's kind of his big wrestling moment that he has. And then he came back into it in 2016 when the entire family jumped in.
So you talk about being fans of different eras than your husband. What is something you've gone back and watched with him? Maybe he's been like, "Watch this, I think you'll like it," and you're like, "No, this is not for me." And then what is something that you're like, "Oh, that's pretty cool," And then vice versa. What have you shown him that maybe he didn't like and maybe liked?
Yeah. John Cena. I can't get into early John Cena stuff. So he started watching in early 90s and then he came back at the beginning of the 2000s and left again. So he likes a lot of the John Cena stuff, Ruthless Aggression era. And I just,
Thugonomics.
yes, yeah.
Okay.
And I just haven't been able to go back and watch that stuff. I'm not sure what it is about it, but it's just I can't really get into that era. Um, and then is there anything that I like that he doesn't? They all three of them like AEW right now, but I don't know if it's my age or my gender, but it's a bit too gruesome for me. Um,
I
which is
understand.
wild that I was at, that Undertaker Mankind match. But it's a bit too much for me, so I don't watch it. I enjoy, the storylines and the non-grotesque wrestling that they do have. Um, but yeah, I don't think there's anything that I like that he doesn't like. He's pretty much all in.
So you talk about the AEW in your own words being a bit too grotesque for you. What is it? Is it the blood? Is it the fact that they use a lot more blood in their wrestling? Is it what is it?
Yeah, I definitely think it's the blood, the intense weaponry, using the barbed wire, and you can actually see the effect that it has.
Mm,
WWE is more toned down. It's like, yeah, we're gonna use a kendo stick, but you're not gonna see like actual issues with it. Or, when Finn cut his head open during that one pay-per-view, they didn't show us him
versus
being
Edge, I
stapled.
believe, in Hell in a Cell.
Yeah, yeah. So, whereas I feel like AEW would have showed that whole thing. And yeah, I don't know. I'm not queasy, but it's something I really don't enjoy watching.
I understand. So no GCW in your future then, no?
No.
So you talk about the things you're not a fan of in wrestling, Jenna. But where is your current fandom as we record this in May of 2024?
So I don't watch as much as I used to, mainly because I have, content just constantly um, entering my brain, whether it be the news episodes or our review podcast, which
Hmm.
I'm part of every single one of those, or the boys asking for recaps, or we do have Raw and SmackDown on whenever they're live. We don't always watch NXT, but I don't know. I like the way that WWE is going right now. I like the changes that Triple H has made. You can just tell
Hmm.
that it's different. And, the promos aren't as, long and laborious as they used to be. And you actually get to see the wrestling and the technical side of it. And it's not just, and let's have a rest hold and commercial break.
Hmm.
And we come back and we're still in a rest hold. It's more it kind of draws you in and makes you want to watch the actual wrestling.
Hmm. See, we brought up Wrestle Talk casually a few times in this conversation. So how does it go from you're just a casual fan, in your own words, of their channel, to I want to help you out with every recap and anything that I can? How does those two sort of get together?
So mid 2019, I don't know why I remember this so vividly, but I do. Mid 2019, there was a podcast and they were reviewing something, and um, they were taking super chats at the time. And Luke mentioned that he was really bad at his job with admin and taking care of like emails and whatnot. So I sent in a super chat and said, "Hey, I'm like a secretary by trade. If you ever need any help, just
Hmm.
reach out. I'd be more than happy to." Nothing ever went from that because they just read it and it was like, "Oh, okay, that's cool." So later in the year, Pete was in charge of getting the moderators set up because there weren't any at the time.
Hmm.
And so they mentioned that they were looking for that, and I sent in an application, said, I'd be happy to help out. Why not? And so late 2019 is when I came on as a moderator and enjoyed that for the most part.
Mm.
We'll get into the good and bad of all of that.
Oh, definitely.
Um, yeah, but yeah, I've been with them since 2019, done many jobs. I still moderate, I still do the original thing that I was brought on to do, but it's been so much fun to watch the company grow from where it was at 2019 to, this big conglomerate, if you will, of, multiple channels and tons of
Mhm.
different productions and things like that. So it's been a fun journey.
You talk about it being a fun journey there, but you also talked about things you maybe not have enjoyed so much. So, what
Yeah.
are some things that maybe I don't want to say the bad times because I can't imagine there's loads of them, but like,
Right.
what have been some of the things that maybe people don't see behind the scenes that you're like, okay, this wasn't as fun?
Yeah. So in terms of moderating, we moderate, our live streams for our podcast where we review Raw and SmackDown and AEW and all of that and the pay-per-views. And for the most part, it's fine. When we first got started, the audience had issues trying to figure out, okay, what can we say, what can't we say, and we had
Mm,
to, make up this whole list and guideline for our moderators to be like, okay, they're allowed to say this, but cannot say this, and don't ban for this, but ban for this. And when AEW got started, it was interesting because at first, in just like the podcast reviews, there would be the intense tribalism, and it was really bad at first. I mean, it was like that all over the internet. But in our chat, it was really bad, and people would, start typing fights with each other. Um, but the worst parts were the first couple AEW pay-per-views and the live chat. When people are behind a keyboard, they feel safe. They can say whatever they wanted to.
keyboard
Yes.
warriors, shall we say?
Absolutely. And so I would always make sure to look at the card ahead of time to see if Nyla Rose was going to be wrestling because I knew if she was on
Uh,
the card, that chat was going to be so ugly. And not only would they say, negative things against her, but they would also attack us for, moderating and hiding some comments and stuff like that. I've been called, a Nazi and, every name in the book
what?
for, oh yeah, just for, trying to keep the chat a happy place and a healthy conversation. But
Mm,
AEW has definitely gotten better when it comes to the live chat. We get like maybe one or two every now and then that it's like, okay, you're gone now. Thank you for coming, but you can I'm going to pull the band hammer down on you. But
mm.
yeah, that's the only like really bad things that we've had to deal with is the beginning of AEW and people trying to figure out their place and their mindset in all of it.
You talk about the tribalism in wrestling, and you mentioned at the start of this conversation you enjoy some of AEW, but you're not the biggest AEW fan. So, how, in your opinion, can somebody be not a fan, for lack of a better word, but not tribalistic?
So the way that I
Even a
look at
word.
it, yeah, that works. The way that I look at it is you look into different fandoms and different
Mm,
medias or mediums and stuff like that. You have Star Wars fans and you have Star Trek fans. They're not trying to, beat each other's brains in a keyboard and saying, oh, well, you're stupid. Oh, well, you're mama. They can both exist. And wrestling hasn't gotten to that point yet. I don't know if it ever will just because of the content that is within it.
mm,
Um, but yeah, it's just I don't understand why the tribalism is still there. Like one thing that my mods like to say, and I'm like, don't say it because it's kind of a swear word, but it's like what you like, and you don't have to be a dick about it.
mm.
And they haven't gotten that second part to process through their brains whenever they're chatting.
I understand what you're saying there. So you talk about, I'm curious to know what you think of this. It's like How much do you think companies taking a shot at each other? Like, for example, Billy, the one that springs to mind, I know it's not recent, is like Triple H during the DX Hall of Fame segment calling AEW a
Hmm.
t-shirt company. I think it was a t-shirt company. I can't remember off the top of my head. But he took a shot at them because Billy Gunn was working for them, or Cody breaking the throne, or even basically you've seen the shots back and forth. You know what
Hmm.
I'm talking about. How do you think the shots back and forth the companies are taking works in wrestling, but also do you think that contributes to the tribalism?
I think it does contribute a little bit. I think it all depends on how much and how often they decide
Mm,
to do those things. So, like Cody with the throne, that was a big moment at a pay-per-view, but it wasn't, something that he was talking about every single week. He wasn't name dropping Triple H or, any of his other monikers constantly. And when Triple H did the Hall of Fame thing, it was like a small little dig at a person who was, actually there. It was a conversation that they were having, um, and it kind of stopped there.
mm,
The way that AEW is doing it right now, I'm not really a fan of because it feels like they're constantly week after week after week doing, little jabs or little shots, Edge talking about like, this is the company that I want to be in. It's, better than da 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 da. Or I can't remember who said it recently, but it's like Tony Khan is the best boss and better than any boss I've had. It's just it's the number of mentions and the
mm.
frequency of mentions that I think that they haven't quite got it right yet. You can have your little dig here and there, but don't make it a consistent part of your programming and your storytelling because then it becomes too much.
I understand what you're saying completely there. I'm very curious to know, Jenna. Obviously, you say that you're a moderator for every recap, and is it just recaps you have to mod, or is it like live reactions and everything in between? What do you have to mod, etc.?
So, in terms of moderating, I'm the head moderator for the company. So, anything that we do on Wrestle Talk or Wrestle Talk Podcast or PFK or NRB or Chaotic Neutral, I put together the moderating teams for all of that. Um, Obviously the live streams, anything that's live. And then I actually write weekly reports for all of our other videos that just have comments. So the comment section, that's me reading every single comment that comes in. And
Yikes.
yeah, and not just the publicly viewable ones, the ones that are hidden for review or, the other category that YouTube has on there. Um, but yeah, when it comes to moderating comments, I see everything.
Mm. So you talk about seeing everything. I've spoken to some of the boys and girls of Wrestle Talk that have been on my channel before about how they deal with negative comments. How do you deal with them when they're necessarily not attacking you, but they're attacking the company you work for lack of a better word?
So we do in the reports that I do, we look for targeted comments where, someone is saying something to the company, whether it's a praise like, "Hey, I love this new series that you guys are putting together," or a suggestion like, there's been a suggestion on some of the TLCs where they're talking about something. And it's like, hey, why don't you have like the name of the thing that they're talking about on
Mm.
screen? Or, even the negative ones that are done kindly, like,
Oh yeah.
I don't like how this is. Could we possibly change it to that? But, obviously there's the other negative comments where they just, say what they want, how they want. And if it's not constructive, then it goes away. Um, but we do look at it. We do read the comments, and we've had a lot of changes over the past couple months because of things that people have said in the
Mm.
comments.
What has been the biggest change you've seen in Wrestle Talk because of comments?
Recently, it would be the attempted return of the live SmackDown reviews on Saturdays.
Mm.
Um, when we decided to stop them, because they were pre-recorded and they'd go live on Saturday, 3 p.m. When we had decided to stop doing that because it wasn't working out for people's schedules. When we decided to stop doing that, that's when SmackDown got good going into the WrestleMania season.
Yeah, I
And
noticed that.
yeah, and so the comments were saying, we need a SmackDown review. I don't care how you guys do it. I don't care where you do it. We need a SmackDown review. So we tried to go back to what we call the Thunderdome era when we did everything via Zoom because, COVID, we couldn't go into the office.
Hmm.
And we had Luke and Sat did one, and then I think Dan and Sat did one. And then we have the one that is lost to history that was live, but the internet connection for somebody, I can't remember who, was so bad that it was unwatchable. So once it ended, it was deleted from the channel.
Oh wow.
But yeah, the fans were begging for that to come back, and we did as best as we could to bring it back. And then we actually had it live this past Monday because they tried to record it and the recording got corrupted. And it's like, well, we'll do it live. So we had a short SmackDown Live podcast on Monday, and people seem to enjoy it. But you know, some of the things they complain about we can do. Some of the things we absolutely cannot. And that was something that we tried,
Hmm.
and we'll see where it goes from there. But we listened.
How much? I'm curious to know. You talked about we listened there. I'm curious to know how much do you listen to the fans and how much do you go, or how much do you think the people of Wrestle Talk go? No, we're gonna stick with this because, like, give it time, fans. This will work, sort of thing.
Yeah, it certain things, we completely let slide because like someone will be like, "Oh, well, I don't like Dan. I don't like Sat. I don't like Luke." It's like, "Okay, but what are they doing that you don't like?" Just not
Hmm.
liking someone is really an opinion, and we can't really make a change over that. But if it's, like something production wise, like I don't like the background music that is used for this series, or I don't like um, the camera filter, or somebody's mic
Hmm.
setting needs to be fixed. If we see that and we see a lot of that, that's when we actually look into it and be like, okay, this is a thing that we need to take into consideration.
Hmm. So you talk about there. I'm curious to know as well. What are some of the changes you would like to see within Wrestle Talk by the end of 2024?
Ooh, I would, me, even though it means way more work for me, I'd like to see our live pay-per-view reactions come back. There has been a lot of behind the scenes things that I cannot talk about that have affected us being able to do those. And I know the fans miss them. I miss them, but I understand the things that have
Yeah,
gone
yeah.
on that have prevented them. But yeah, I would love to see that come back just for the fan interaction. And you feel like you're not just sitting at home watching it by yourself. You've got this entire live chat watching along with you. So, and I kind of miss that.
So you also talk about there, and you talk about the pay-per-view live reactions and knowing things that go on behind the scenes. How does that affect your fandom of a company when you might know, oh, this is the reason they haven't done a TLC for a couple of weeks, for example. This is the reason they haven't done a certain list, or do you know what I mean? How can you still be surprised as a fan of Wrestle Talk? Is what I'm saying.
Yes. At first, when I, got the more responsibilities that I have now, I was consuming all of the content that I had access to. So it's like, this is getting released later this week. Ooh, I want to watch that ahead of time. Or, hey, we're having a conversation in the company Discord about this. Ooh, that sounds interesting. Or, ooh, I don't like that. Um, I've kind of cut down my content consumption so that I can still enjoy it,
Mhm.
when things go live. I mean, I know everything that's going on. Um, I know way more than people think that, I would know. But I mean, the company knows that I know. It's just
I know
the
what you
world.
mean, fandom.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
yeah.
I don't want anyone from the company to hear this and be like, what does she know? They know what I know. Um, but yeah, it's definitely a personal choice of, how to um, consume the content, whether I want to be surprised at, how the next Blood on the Clock Tower is going to be,
Mm.
or, what the big point from the next TLC video is, if I want to watch it like a normal viewer, I have that option. It's just me deciding to do it or not.
You also talked about there the fact that you're on every recap, and we talked about your roles within the recap. What do you do on those days that you're like, Luke, Dan, I've done so much work the last week. Can I please not can I please have a day off? That sounds horrible. But like I need to take a step back. How do you deal with burnout and things like that?
So I have a great moderating team. I've been given the opportunity to, reach out and pick the people that I want to bring in for that. And for the most part, right now, they're the ones that are fully in the streams or running the Ultra Chat document or looking at the Ultra Chats that are coming in. I'm still there observing and, making sure that nothing, goes absolutely insane or keeping contact between the live chat and the office, if something crazy goes wrong, like if the stream goes down and they're not aware in the office, I,
Mm,
send that message over. Um, so that has definitely helped having that amazing team. So like if I need to not be there for a review or something like that, I know I can trust that team that's scheduled for that day to do that. And I've, since I've been with Wrestle Talk, I've moved 3 times. So I've been able to, communicate with the office and be like, hey, I can't be here on this date, and this date. I can arrange a cover for that. Will everything be fine with that? And, as long as everything is functional and covered,
mm.
they've let me be pretty flexible with my schedule.
I understand what you're saying completely there. As we look at wrapping this up, because we've been going almost 40 minutes and I do want to be respectful of your time, I'm curious to know. I talk to people a lot about their legacy and things like that. Where do you think Wrestle Talk would be, first of all, without you coming on board? And where would you be without Wrestle Talk?
So when I joined Wrestle Talk, I was at the beginning of a very, very long and painful chronic health journey.
Mm,
Um, and working with Wrestle Talk through all of that, through, 2020 and COVID, and I had like 4 surgeries in one year, knowing that I had something to do to take my mind off of that was such a wonderful thing. I could feel sick, but I could be like, hey, there's a stream going on. I'm gonna, go focus on that and put all of my energy into that. And it really affected me for the positive in that. I was also able to do a wonderful thing in 2021 during one of our Crown Jewel live streams. We like to do charity live streams for
yeah,
that,
yeah, yeah.
and we did charity for Medivivor, which is a metastatic breast cancer charity. And we made the thing, if we made $2,500, I would cut my hair, and if we made $5,000, I would shave my head. And
That
we hit
is
it.
silly.
Yeah.
Mm,
And I shaved my head live on stream. And the reason the charity was so close to my heart is because my best friend was stage 4 metastatic breast cancer at
mm.
the time. And she got to see that. She got to see the money that was collected, and saw what my head looked afterwards. And then she actually died the following week.
Oh
Um,
wow. I'm very
so
sorry.
yeah. But knowing that, we've been able to do some good in the world, even though like Crown Jewel is like, there's all the Saudi controversy and whatnot, but
Yeah.
through that, we were able to do some good in the world, and the charities for Sammy for Syria and stuff like that. It's really made it probably the best job that I've ever had.
You talk about it being the best job you've ever had there. What does Wrestle Talk mean to you overall?
It WrestleTalk is amazing. The people that I work with, and it seems like we're constantly adding new people, but they are all absolutely wonderful people. Ollie actually named me. That's where the Mod Mother name came from.
Oh,
Um,
really?
yeah, yeah, he gave me that name. Um, with Pete, everybody has like the whole happy birthday, Pete thing. Well, in real life, Pete and I actually share a birthday. So,
Mm.
there's like that connection there. And it's just, I, I really consider all of my coworkers to be, good friends and just truly wonderful people. I haven't had a negative interaction with any of them. And it's not just because I'm across the pond. We're constantly either in Discord chats or emails or whatnot, discussing things. But yeah, just absolutely wonderful people over there. I'm happy to be a part of it.
That's really, really cool. You talk about there as well the different presenters in Wrestle Talk. When you know, etc., say Luke and Dan are going to be on stream together, is there a certain pairing, shall I say, that you look like and you're like, this is going to be fun? Or is there a certain pairing that you're like, okay, we better watch the chat because this one can sometimes be, maybe people are a bit mean to these presenters, if you know what I mean.
Mhm. Um, the different pairings definitely have their own chemistries. The chat does react to them differently. There's also some admin issues with different pairings because we know, like, Ollie likes to have the podcast be no longer than an hour. He's like, hit
Mm.
that hour mark, have it be done. When Dan and Tempest are in a stream together, they they have this knowledge and this appreciation and this understanding for wrestling. And so when I see that they're on schedule for the stream, I let my mods know, like, hey, we're going to be in a long one today. So if you need to leave early, let me know, but just prepare yourselves for a long one. Um, and then the comment sections love the pairing of Sat and Tempest.
Mm.
Um, and they request for them a lot, but we've had certain things come up where it's like, um, that somebody has like a certain opinion of women's wrestling or somebody doesn't like a certain promotion. And when I know that, they're going to be on the stream, it's like, okay, we got to be careful. There was a trail of time where everyone was saying, oh, well, Pete's just negative. Pete's just negative. And so if
Mm.
I knew Pete was going to be on the stream, it's like, okay, maybe just actually listen to him. Don't
Yeah.
assume that he's going to be negative. And that, thankfully, that time has ended because he's doing amazing things over on the Wrestle Talk channel with the the original series that they've been putting out.
Mm.
And people have actually been able to see where his passion for wrestling is, and they've been able to understand him a little bit more.
He's been on my channel twice. I find Pete class. I'm not gonna lie. So
Yeah.
someone I want to talk to you about super quickly is because he retweeted this conversation is Mayor of Painesville Dan. He said that he thinks he would be in jail if it wasn't for you. What does that mean?
Well, he's very opinionated. We love Dan, or German Dan as we sometimes call him.
Mm.
Um, but he is very opinionated and he likes to say what he likes to say and he likes to, use the swear words. And so we have to, treat him just like any other live chatter that we have. If he steps over the line, maybe it's a little timeout here, or send him a little message, be like, hey, can you like calm it down just
Take
a
it
little
down a
bit?
little bit.
Yeah, but no, he's wonderful and he loves Dexter Loomis and he loves Gold Dust. And we always know when those people are being talked about that we're going to get either a live chat or an ultra chat from Dan. It's fun to see him just pop up in different locations. It's like on Twitter and it's like, oh look, there's Dan. No, he's wonderful. We like him.
That's really, really cool. Another guy that's been on my channel, and I've always had fun talking to him. As we look at wrapping this up, Jenna, obviously, I want to be respectful of your time. We are going to do a segment that's a staple on this channel called Generic Wrestling Questions. Those of you that have seen my interviews before will know as well. I'll ask Jenna the questions she might be asked on social media or in streams, such as her favorite match, her favorite overall pay-per-view card, such as Double or Nothing 2019, her favorite wrestler's entrance team, favorite tag team, and favorite wrestler of all time. So, what's your favorite match of all time?
Favorite match of all time is definitely the Undertaker Mankind match. Has to be.
We talked about this earlier, but why does that speak to you as a fan?
Just being there live to see it and the history that it has become. It's become its own thing, its own cornerstone in
Mm.
wrestling, if you will.
Mm. What about your favorite overall pay-per-view card?
Um, Oh, I'm gonna get hate for it. It's Extreme Rules 2018, I believe. The one where the crowd ruined the Iron Man match between
Yeah.
Dolph Ziggler and Seth Rollins. Yeah, we were there for that. So we were part of that crowd, but it was really a good pay-per-view because you've got the tag team match at the beginning where the B team wins the tag belts from Bray Wyatt and Matt Hardy. So it
Mm.
was, Bo and Bray getting to wrestle against each other, which I don't think we had seen much of at that point or ever even. And then there's a hidden gem in that show. It's Rusev versus AJ Styles.
Oh
And
yeah.
yeah, it was a really, really good match. But unfortunately, it gets forgotten because we ruined the main event match. So.
Just quickly before we talk about your favorite wrestling theme, I got to ask you about ruining the main event of Seth Rollins, uh, Dolph Ziggler. What happened there? What do you think happened? What started all that, etc.?
Well, as we know, crowds like to count down. They
Mm.
they love a rumble because they get to count down. And we had like this huge clock that was on the main Titantron area, and we could see it. And this one section started it. And every time, it would get to 10 seconds of some minute, they would start counting down. And people just kind of jumped onto it because everyone loves to count down. Well, then they took the clock away. So people pulled up the WWE network on their phone and they started the countdown from that. And it kept going. I don't know why it kept going, even though, we didn't have the clock on the screen, because it should have gotten annoying after a while. I know the wrestlers were annoyed. You watch that match back
Yeah.
and you can see Seth and Dolph were just angry. Um, but yeah, Pittsburgh did not let that one go.
Why do you think it was that particular Iron match in particular? Because obviously there have been other Iron Man matches like Kurt, uh, Brock, Rock, Triple H, etc. And even in AEW, they've had a pretty great one. Why do you think it was that particular match that crowd was like, nope, we're gonna screw with this and do the counting down?
I honestly have no idea. I mean, it didn't make sense to keep doing it. It was either the 20 or the 25th anniversary of the 1998 Hell in a Cell or King of the Ring. So I don't know if they wanted to be like, hey, we're back in Pittsburgh. Let's make history for ourselves. Let's make us a name,
Mm.
like they did back then. Or I have no idea, but it started and it didn't stop till the match was over. And if you notice, I'm pretty sure there may have been one. There has not been an Iron Man match with a clock in WWE since. There may have been one, um, but yeah, they kind of stopped doing that for a long time because of
Yeah, I
that
can't
crowd.
correct you on that because I have no idea. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
What about your favorite wrestler's entrance theme?
Oh, I'm kind of a fan of Cody right now just because of the crowd interaction.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then recently Jey Uso, because he's got the
Yeah, I
entire
can't do that
crowd,
one. I
going
can't
with
do that
him.
one.
Yeah, and it's brought the Fireflies back out, which I've
Oh
I've
yeah.
really I've really appreciated seeing that because I think that's the first time anyone's gotten anything like that since Bray. So it's
Mm.
been fun to see those make a return.
What about your favorite tag team of all time?
Ooh, I like early DIY, not the current iteration. I don't know what they're trying to do
Not
right now.
DX DIY. Mm.
Yeah, yeah. I like the original DIY.
Mm. Why do they speak to you as a fan?
I'm not sure. I mean, they have a chemistry with each other, and you know that at any time they could, brawl with each other, kind of like Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn.
Mm,
Um, but it's just the way that they interact with each other, and I don't know. I like their wrestling styles. They work well together.
that's really, really cool. And then finally, Jenna, the biggest generic question, in my opinion, what is your who is your favorite overall wrestler?
Oh, there's in the overall, because I could pick, like different categories and whatnot. I love Soraya Page.
Mm,
Um, she and I have a similar health condition, and just seeing that, she still works through that, or, with every little bit of adversity that she has dealt with, she's still, moving forward. She worked so hard to get cleared, and she's still doing stuff on screen. And it's good to see a woman not give up because she was told to give up. She just keeps going.
mm, that's really, really cool. As we wrap this up, Jenna, obviously I want to say thank you for a great conversation. But the question I end this show on is I believe as content creators, or even just people with social media, we're all sort of gonna live forever in some sort of very, very weird way if you think about the world. So what is one piece of content you're like, I'd like to be remembered for that? Then what is one that you're like, nah, you can get rid of that?
Um, Definitely the head shaving charity stream. That was just an amazing thing. It did take me forever to grow my hair back.
Mm,
So that was one small negative part of it. But just the good that we were able to do with that. I don't think I have anything out there that I'm really ashamed of or embarrassed of or want to hide. I I can't cook, and I did B-roll for the company for a HelloFresh ad once.
mm.
And so like I actually had to film myself attempting to cook, and it didn't turn out too bad, but that was probably the strangest piece of content or, you know, video out there that I have of myself, that it's unique and it's weird, but it's not bad.
I understand what you're saying completely there. So as we wrap this up, obviously I want to say thank you to Jenna for a great conversation. Thank you for coming on. But please promote yourself and your work. Where can the good people find you, your work, etc.?
You can find me on the Wrestle Talk channel, the Wrestle Talk podcast channel. Basically, any of the channels that we have, I will be in every single live chat. And if you see something that says MM, that's me, the mod mother. Um, I'll happily talk to you as long as you're nice.
That's very, very cool and a beautiful way to end this, if I'm honest, guys. So if you guys like this, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to Tom Talks Irish on YouTube. Follow me on Twitter or X at Tom Talks Irish. And I will see you in the next one. Goodbye now.